It is being rumored that a match between Nick Diaz and Tony Ferguson is in the works for UFC 303, the card currently being headlined by Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler on June 29th. Ferguson lost to Nate Diaz by submission back in 2022, so it is interesting that they would now match him up with Nate's older brother Nick. I suppose it does make sense as both fighters are in the twilight of their careers, and it would be a great send-off to both fighters if they choose to call it a career after this fight. Ferguson recently revealed on the Jackson podcast that Brock Lesnar, his former mentor and coach from The Ultimate Fighter, advised him to retire after the Paddy Pimblett loss, but in spite of this, Tony maintains that he is not retiring anytime soon. Now, if you watched Tony's last fight versus Pimblett, it went the distance, but he did not look good in that loss. He was almost finished in the first round, at one point being fully mounted, and was pretty much saved by the bell. In spite of this, I think he could have had a chance to win, as Paddy was completely gassed in the third. If Tony was not content to stay on the ground on his back in the third round, I think he could have possibly finished Paddy on the feet. Regardless though, it was his 7th straight loss, which is tied for the worst losing streak in the history of the UFC. As for Diaz, he's had one fight in the last 9 years, the last one being a loss to Robby Lawler back in 2021. He actually didn't look that bad in this fight. His boxing looked pretty good, however physically he did not look the same. He definitely looked out of shape compared to the condition that we were used to seeing him in the past. He lost via TKO early in the third round when he decided he had enough of Lawler's punches and basically just sat down on the mat and quit. Dana White said he was impressed with how he performed after such a long layoff, which was over 6 years at the time. However, White stated that he didn't want to see Nick continue fighting, which really came down to the demeanor Diaz carried leading up to that fight. In fact, at one point while speaking to the media ahead of the Lawler fight, Diaz said, "I don't know why I'm doing this." This might be seen as nothing new though, as Diaz has always had a bit of a love-hate relationship with fighting, and he's made similar statements to this in the past. During the post-fight press conference after the Lawler fight, White also explained, "I just don't think Nick does it because he loves it, I think he does it because he has to do it." Perhaps alluding to the fact that he's just doing it for the money. Also, if he really wanted to be fighting, I think we would have seen him fight long ago rather than the almost 3 years that will have passed if this rumored fight does indeed happen. Now, Diaz did recently post on Instagram some videos of him hitting the bag with the caption, "Somebody is going to pay very soon." So it seems like he is interested in taking a fight, so we will see if it is indeed Ferguson who is the opponent. Even though the motivation for Diaz to fight may be nothing more than money, I would be leaning towards Nick winning this fight. I think his boxing would get it done. Tony seems to look worse in each fight, so it's hard to see him getting a win at this point, if I'm being honest. And I'm saying this as a Ferguson fan. However, with the inactivity in Diaz, you never know. If Diaz has declined physically even more than the last time we saw him, and Tony, being a much more active fighter, could definitely work in his favor. Whatever happens, I hope both men make it a good competitive contest, but what do you guys think? Also, make sure to check out my thoughts on the main event for UFC 303, McGregor versus Chandler, which you'll find in the link at the end of this video. If you like the content, please like and subscribe. Take care, guys, and I will see you next time.